So in this video, we're going to make salted caramel macarons. And we're going to use the Swiss meringue method, where we heat the sugar to 65 degrees. Unlike the French way that we did it in my previous video, this makes a more strong meringue. So if you're in a humid environment, this is the perfect recipe for you. So with the French macarons, you got to make sure the meringue is very stiff. And if that's not perfect, then they can fail. Where with the Swiss meringue, because you're heating the sugar, it's a lot stronger and more stable, and you have more headroom. So I've got the oven preheating at 140 degrees. I'm using the stone oven, so I put the wires on the stones because you don't want to put the tray directly on the stones. This is the same for the stone ovens or your home oven. This is the same, 140. So first we're going to start with the filling, and I'll weigh it out because we want this to cool down before adding it to the buttercream. So I'm going to add 100 mils of water, which is 100 grams, and just put that in a saucepan. Now we're going to heat this sugar and add heavy cream to the mix. So that's 100. We're also going to need 220 grams of caster sugar. And you just want to put it in the middle. You don't want to get it on the sides. Now we're going to put this on the stove on medium heat, and when it starts to brown, we're going to add the heavy cream to it. Now you want to keep your eye on this because this can burn very easily, so it only takes a few minutes, and when it starts to brown, like a golden brown, that's when I'm going to add the heavy cream. So it's been about 3 minutes now, and when this starts to go a golden brown color, this is when we're going to add the heavy cream. Now it's very, very windy today, so hopefully it doesn't get picked up too much on the video. So it's getting a little bit browner, and when that starts to get golden, we're going to add the heavy cream. So now it's going golden brown. You can smell it too. I will tip this in. You don't want to tip too much in, it will clump up. You just want to tip this in. It smells so good, so caramel. Like so. Be careful not to spill it. Just keep stirring. So, bit of splash. Now you want this to come back to the boil. Turn it down a bit to medium. And that's it. Take it off. Take it off the heat, and I'll tip it into a tub. Now we will add 2 teaspoons of sea salt and 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, and we'll mix that in, and we want this to cool down and thicken up, and we'll add this to the buttercream after we make the macarons. And when you're doing anything where you heat sugar, wash your bowls and the utensils as fast as you can afterwards, because when it hardens, so you've got a little bit here, it becomes very hard to clean. So you want to clean them as fast as you can. So now the salted caramel is done. We'll leave that in the container to cool down. Over here, we're going to weigh up the egg whites now. We're going to weigh up the egg whites with the sugar, because you're going to mix them, like you're going to heat them up together. So we're going to do 110 grams of egg whites, and we will put those in a different bowl and then tip them into the main one. And just 100, maybe even 100, and go a little bit, just try and get this as accurate as you can. And 111, that's fine. And then to that, to the egg whites, we will add 110 grams of caster sugar. with macarons, you really want to get the recipe as accurate as you can. So I'm going to weigh up 140 grams of almond flour and 140 grams of icing sugar. If your almond flour is not very fine, you could put it through a blender. Just don't over mix it because it will release the oils and you don't want that. So let's go 140 grams of almond flour. And 140, that's fine. Now we're going to put 140 grams of icing sugar. So on a medium heat, you want to get a saucepan with a little bit of water, about that much, just so that it will simmer. And we'll put the egg whites on top. We'll add the sugar. And we just want to heat this to 65 degrees. Now I've got a thermometer too. And you want to stir this at all times. Not too much, just so it doesn't burn or stick. And we're going to keep heating this until it gets to 65. Now I'm using the KitchenAid bowl because I don't want to be transferring from one to the other. And this way we can just put it straight in the mixer and start mixing it into a stiff peak as a meringue. But we're going to keep heating this till it gets to 65 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer, you can use your fingers. Just be careful. And if you don't feel any sugar in between them, that means it's melted enough. But we're going to keep heating this. Let's have a look at what we are. Okay, we get in there. 36. I'm using the thermometer as well. I usually use both hands, but I can't because I'm recording. So for now, I'm just going to use this, but I prefer to use the whisk. When it hits 60, I'm going to pour it off. You can go as high as 65, but I wouldn't recommend going that high. Just wait until it gets to 60, so you got enough time to put it in the mixer. And on 61, I'm going to pour this off. Now I'm going to put it in the mixer. Make sure it's on low. Don't want it going into your face. And we're going to start whisking this on medium high until we get stiff peaks. And we'll keep mixing that until it gets to stiff peaks, about 4 minutes or so, maybe 5. And I've got this on speed 6 on my mixer. You'll know when it's ready when the meringue will start to build up inside the whisk, and you'll get like a glossy sort of look to the meringue. Unlike the French macarons that I did in the previous video, it doesn't matter if you go you don't need to go stiff. You just got to get them stiff enough. The meringue doesn't have to be perfect. This is why I like the Swiss meringue method, because you don't have to get a perfect meringue for it to work out. And if you're in a hot environment and you got high humidity, this is the perfect recipe. So now I'm going to put it up to speed 8 after about 3 minutes. And this will just finish it off. And let's just have a look. I want to go a bit more stiff than that. So it's got like a, just mix it around a bit. Not too bad actually. Might leave that. Okay. As long as it's semi-stiff, that's what matters. Like so. Now I'm going to get, always do this, I grip the paddle and I'll use this to blend in the ingredients. I'll put in half of the almond and icing sugar. Spatula in. Make sure this is on speed 1. And like so. Now I want to make these macarons white, so I'm not going to add any colour in or any gels or food powders, because I like to make my salted caramel macarons on the white side because it matches the colour. When I do blueberry macarons, I make them blue, and chocolate will be brown. But I find salted caramel macarons, they look nicer when they're white. Okay, so that's that. And I'll just mix this in for about 15 seconds. This will make the macronage a bit easier. So we don't want to go too much. Stop. Okay. So now we want to get every bit of this mix off the paddle. So now I'll use the bowl that I mixed the almond and the icing sugar in to put the mixture back in. I try not to use as many bowls as I can. That's why I mixed the meringue in the same bowl, the mixing bowl, and this one in here. It saves you on washing up. Now this is the most important part. You want to mix, you don't want to mix the meringue, you want to fold the meringue. You want to fold it until you get like a lava drop, and that's not lava. And I always like to do it on an angle like so with the bowl. That's why I use a bigger bowl from a Macronage. You just want to keep folding, occasionally going through the middle until it starts to come off the spatula better. See how it's starting to come off a bit more? We're going to keep folding this in. Remember, we're not mixing, we're folding. Okay, from the middle. Now, see how it's getting the lava effect? So I'm going to go a little bit more, so it's coming off a little bit faster. You don't want to go too far. If you mix too far, they will spread on the trays. And if you don't mix enough, they won't flatten. So you want to find a spot in the middle. That's enough. So let's go a bit more. I'm going to go 5 more turns. 2. Okay. And that's coming off more better now. All right. So now I've got my piping bag set up. I have a tube about a little bit smaller than my finger. It's about 1 centimeter. And I always like to put it in one of these, just makes it easier to fill. So, up. And I'll just get rid of all these and put them in the sink, and then I'll pipe them out. I'm going to get 2 trays. Make sure these mats are always clean. If you have to use vinegar on them, that will clean them properly. You don't want them oily. So So I'm going to push and break off. I'll go a little bit over the line on these, off the center line. You can make them any size you want, bigger, smaller. This is the size I like to go because it fits the packaging that I have. So, and you just want to tap them a bit and flatten them out. And this also knocks out any air bubbles that are in them, because air bubbles will cause them to go hollow. So you just want to, that's why I aim to pipe them to the middle line, and then I'll bang them out until the outer line. So that gives me pretty much consistent sizes continuously. You'll get some that are smaller and some that are bigger, but you pair them. So, second tray. You should get 2 trays if you do in the middle perfectly. But if you go a bit over, which I have on some, you'll get less than 2 trays, which is about 30 macarons with these mats. You get towards the end, you will start getting air bubbles. Might be a little bit short here. If you're careful, you can kind of tip that out. Ah, so I've got perfectly got the 30 in here, and I'll hit these out. They're very white on camera. Hopefully they look good. Like I said, the salted caramel, where it's like brownish, looks nicer with the white shells. And if you hit these hard enough, you will knock any air bubbles out of them. If you do have any air bubbles, just use a toothpick and you can pop them, which I'll show you. For example, there's one there. If you just put a hole in it, you can go over and just knock out any air bubbles that are in it. But if you hit them hard enough, you won't need to. Okay, now we're going to put this in the oven for 14 minutes. We're going to add time if we need to. So I'll put these in. Now the reason why I put these on the tray upside down is because macarons can get affected by the lip if you have like a lip around the tray. So having the tray upside down just makes the heat better. Plus the heat gets through into the middle a lot better too. So we'll set a timer for 14 minutes and we will see how they look on these trays. Like say for example, you've got a macaron that's here and here and here. It's hot. The hotness of the tray can cause them to crack or get lopsided. So doing the tray upside down just gets rid of that issue. Tops are still wobbly a bit, so we're going to give that another minute. So now the tops are stiff, they don't move. You don't want to go too far, otherwise they get too crunchy and they'll darken up at the top too. Because they're white, they're more prone to browning, so you'll get more of a brownish white than a white. So I'll let these cool down completely so they're easier to take off the tray, and then we will make the buttercream, which is just the butter and the icing sugar, and we'll mix it into the salted caramel. So now they've cooled down, they should just pop off like so. So they're pretty, yep, some might stick, but yeah, so they're coming off the trays now. So now for the buttercream, we're going to need unsalted butter, and we're going to add 200 grams to the mixer. I'm going to mix this until it's fluffy. And once that's fluffy and airy, we will put the icing sugar in here. Now I've got that on speed 6. And we just want it to go pale and fluffy. So now it's fluffy. So we're going to add icing sugar. So 100 grams of icing sugar. And we'll mix it together. We'll just scrape this down a little bit. And I'll put 100 grams of icing sugar. And we put it through the sieve. Want it as smooth as possible. Put it back in the mixer on slow speed. Because we don't want air in this now. This might seem thick, but the salted caramel mixture will soften it up. We'll keep mixing that in. Now on speed 1, it's going to gradually tip some of this in bit by bit. You can do this on speed 1 or speed 2. Might do speed 2. Just do it down the gap so you don't get the salted caramel on the back on the paddle, and it springs it around the bowl. And now you want to just put a little bit of the mixture in a piping bag, because we'll pipe some into the centers too. So we'll put that in, twist it off, and put that later. And you don't have to do this part, you can just put all the mixture in at once, but it's nice to have the caramel of the buttercream with some of the caramel by itself. And once it's all in, we'll scrape it down and then just mix it for like a minute. And that's the filling done. We'll pop it into the macaron. And that's it, almost finished. And then just towards the end, just get to the bottom, make sure everything's scraped down. There's a little bit more mixture here than we need, but I always do extra because it's hard to boil the sugar and all that when the recipe is too small. And it's always good to have this back up anyway. You can put it in the freezer for up to a month or two. So now that's exactly where we want to be, nice and soft and smooth. I'll leave this to the side now, and now I'll pair the macarons together. So now we'll pair these up, so it makes it easier to pipe them. They should be pretty similar in size. So we're going to use a piping tube about that size, a bit bigger than when we pipe them. So, I love the smell of salted caramel. It's my favourite macaron. These are like my favourite macarons to make. We just want to pipe about that much because we're going to squeeze them. So, and with the extra that we had, I like to just put them in like so. Get a bit messy, but it's okay. Just squeeze them down before you get a chance, before it gets a chance to run too much. so. Right, so you gotta dip that in. Just be careful, this will run a little bit. You gotta put the top on really fast. It can be a bit messy, but I like the way it runs around off the edges and stuff. It looks good on the corners. So you might put a bit off. You don't have to put the caramel in the middle if it's too messy for you. So that's these ones done.
Don't record me. It was a joke.
What are you doing?
I'm eating.
Now what I like to do is, once they're in the fridge, I will turn them upside down, make sure they're not in a part with salted caramel, and you can give like an effect on top where there's like salted caramel on the top, and it's also dripping. So I really like this effect. So I'll grab it, turn it over, and it's got a caramel on the top too, and it's in the middle. It's a really nice effect. So they turned out very nice. I do like it when the caramel's kind of like leaking and on the top. But if you don't want it this sticky, it doesn't. I mean, it's not really that sticky. But if you don't want like a little bit of a mess on top, you can put all the caramel in the middle. But yeah, I really do like this look. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. And I'll see you in the next one. So when you package them, make sure you don't put them side by side, because these ones, because they do have caramel on top, they will stick. And they can last for almost a couple of days, 4 or 5 days in the fridge, up to a week before they start falling apart, and a month or 2 in the freezer. So I'll leave these in the fridge, and they're best eaten in about 24 hours.